Krishna. Should we start, Radhika Kasturi Mataji? Are you ready?
I'm ready, Mataji. Hare Krishna. All right. Thank you. So
Yeah,
let's get started.
No, Mataji. Wait. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for joining, and really inspired by your presence every day, and welcome you to this wonderful series of Nectar of Instruction, 11 verses in 11 weeks. And today we have Her Grace Radhika Kasturi Mataji, who's going to lead us to verse number 4 of Nectar of Instruction. So, once again, welcome you all to this wonderful session. Thank you once again for your presence, for your auspicious presence. So, yes, over to you, Radhika Mataji. You can take over now. Hare Krishna, Dandavad.
Dandavat pranams, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Let's get started with our prayers. Om Ajnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the meaning for these verses can be seen now. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him, respectful obeisances unto him. I offer my respectful obeisances unto his grace, divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Our respectful obeisances are on to our spiritual master, servant of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching this message of Lord Chaitanya Deva and delivering the Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. I offer my respectful obeisances on to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhara Pandit, Srivas Thakur, and all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So with this, I also pay my humble obeisances for all the devotees who are here on this call, so that I may able to speak the relevant words of Srila Prabhupada. Kindly bless me, dear devotees, so that I'm able to spread the glories of the Lord and convey the message, the intended message of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. All right, dear devotees, let's get started with our verse for today, which is verse number 4. But before that, we will try to do a quick recap of what was seen last time. So if you look at the previous sections that were dealt with, so there are 3 verses that have been covered so far. So the first verse talked about the 6 urges, that is speech, anger, how to control the speech, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals. So this was covered by our devotee Kirtida Sundari Mataji. And then we saw about what are the 6 vices that should be avoided, and that is overeating, over-endeavoring, useless talk, improper compliance with scriptural rules, and bad association and greed. And then in the last session, we saw about, and that was covered by, of course, His Grace Vivek Prabhu, and 6 virtues we saw from last time, which talked about what are the virtues that we need to develop: enthusiasm, patience, prescribed practices, avoiding the association, following our acharyas. So this was covered by Her Grace Priti Vilasi Mataji. So we saw that so far, if you look at the crux of these verses, especially verse number 2 and 3, of course, the first verse talks about the conditional nature and how we should actually overcome our conditioning and get over those urges that we have. The second and the third more so stresses the importance of association of devotees, isn't it? So this verse that we are going to see today is actually going to tell us how we can associate with devotees. We all want to have loving relationship with the Supreme Lord, but we must understand the loving exchange with the Supreme Lord is possible when we have these loving exchanges with the devotees, who are his part and parcels, of course. So this is the connection between the verses. And then the 5th verse, of course, is going to talk about who's the devotee, different categories of devotees. And the 6th will talk about how we should not judge devotee based on the externals. So this is connection to the verses that are going to come forward in the next week's classes as well. So now, Srila Prabhupada, he gives a very beautiful example of how relationships are formed. Let's go on to the next slide. But of course, I just want to sort of give you an overview of what's coming up in the session today. So Srila Prabhupada, he gives a beautiful example of how relationships are formed, even in material life. Say, for example, head of a state, right? Head of a state, for example, a businessman, or say in a political scenario, when there is a head of a state, what he does, he goes from one country, visits to another country. And then in the second country that he visits, he's having a big feast. He's having all the VIPs. There are so many VIPs that are there present in the second country whom he's talking to. And then this is how he says the relationships are developing, even in this material world. If you want to develop some relationship, then the head of the state, he visits and gets pally with the next state, gives some gifts. They exchange some gifts with each other. And then there is also a big feast that is arranged by the second country. And then they start discussing about what are some of the concerns that they have as far as the political scenario goes. And what are some of the areas of disagreement, things of that nature. They start discussing. In this way, what happens is that we build relationships. And this is important for building relationships is important for political consequences, because again, the agreements and disagreements is based on how pally or how friendly you're with other state, isn't it? So this is what is the example that Srila Prabhupada proposes. So if you look at devotional stage, in a similar way, for us to progress from one stage to another stage, it is important for us to associate with devotees. This is a very, very, very crucial point of devotional service. You can actually elevate your consciousness by proper association. Everything depends on association pretty much, because with association, we actually acquire the qualities of the devotees whom we associate with, qualities of the things. Who are we interacting with? What are the things we are interacting with? What are the shastras we are interacting with? These all play a very, very pivotal role or important role in shaping our spiritual consciousness that we have. And because we are dependent on these living entities, we definitely have to associate with each other. And these 6 forms of loving relationships actually play a very important role, and it acts as a media for expressing love. So it's 6 loving exchanges. So it's acting as a way to express our love, to express our emotions. So this is how we can say. So by having these 6 exchanges, what are we finally trying to do? We are expressing our love. we are actually not only expressing our love, but also in some way or fashion, we are developing that love. So this is another essential point of this verse. And this means, so expressing love and also developing this love. So both are very important, right? I mean, if you were to express your love, you eventually also try to develop the love. If you don't know what that love is, you start to develop it by association with devotees. So we know that love is very important. Love is good. And this feeling of love, what does it make us feel? It makes us feel so happy and joyful, isn't it? Because when we learn to give people prasadam, we do it with a feeling. We do it with a feeling of love and affection. And slowly what happens is you start developing love towards that person, whomever you're serving. So, but again, so we will slowly and steadily be able to develop that love. The love may not be spontaneous if that person is unknown to you, but then this love will gradually develop over a period of time as you do these 6 exchanges. Again, this is an art. This is an art, we have to say, because we have to learn to practice doing it day in and day out. And that's when we will understand what is the essence of our life. Again, we all want to be happy, because a human being cannot be happy without love, isn't it? Can a human being be happy without love? No. Everybody wants love. Everybody hankers for love. Everybody feel nourished when they are loved. So just imagine, okay, everything in this world, okay, everything you can imagine, whatever we have in this world. If you have, say, for example, Mercedes, if you have big house, imagine all possible nice things you have in this world. But you don't have anybody who loves you, nor do you love anybody else. How do you feel? Without this, you have so many things at your disposal. You have these Mercedes car, big houses, servants right at the moment when you call them, they are there. But if you don't have love with anybody, or you don't, or you're not being loved, then there is no use of all these things. We feel like life is so boring. You can't be happy. But on the other hand, say, for example, you have, so you, even if you don't have any kind of material wealth or things of that nature, but everybody loves you and you love everybody else, how will you feel? That feeling of satisfaction is completely different. I'm sure you're going to be happy with that feeling. So Rupa Goswami here, he says that we have to be friendly with Vaishnavas. We have to relate nicely with them, and we have to learn to serve them. So this is the mood that Rupa Goswami Pad is going to teach us through this verse number 4. So I just sort of wanted to give you this synopsis before we actually start getting into the section of the verse itself. So now let's get into the verse and understand some intricate points that Rupa Goswami Pad is teaching us through this verse. All right. So let's recite the verse. Dadati pratigrahnati guhyam akyati praschati bhunte pojyate shaiva sadvidam priti lakshanam. So offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad, offering prasad. These are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. So we are going to actually talk about it in detail as to what each of these terms mean. Dadati, what does it mean? Pratigrahnati, what does that mean? Guhyam akyati prashyati, what does that mean? So we are going to see it one by one. So now, I'm so sorry. Sorry for the distractions here. Yeah. Anyways, let's get into the verse and understand these terms one by one. So dadati, contributing or giving charity. Pratigrihnati, willing to accept transcendental gifts. Dadati and Pratigrihnati, we will try to elaborately see this verse and also see some examples connected to this verse, so you better understand the point what Rupa Goswami Pad is trying to teach us. So first is Dadati, right? So Dadati means there is definitely, when we are giving gifts, there are 2 aspects to the gift, right? Whenever we give a gift, there is an intent. What is the intent and what is the content of the gift? These are the 2 ways through which any gift that we exchange can be, the gift can have a meaning Meaning with these two things. One is intent, another is content. So now content means what is it that we are giving, and intent means with what intention am I giving that gift. So intent and content are both important from a devotee perspective. But from the perspective of Krishna, what is important? He feels intent is more important than the content. If you look at Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? You just give me a little flower, fruit, or leaf, that is good enough for me. But I just want you to do one thing. You just offer me all those things with a little bit of love and affection, with a little bit of devotion. If you can offer me, then I'll be so happy. That is what Krishna says. But what should be the mood of a devotee? When he does what he does for Krishna, he should actually make sure that both the intent and content are good, right? So we see the same principle. That is also intent and content are good, meaning whatever to his best of his capacity, whatever he can do, he should do. That way, the content is good. And intent, again, with the mood to please Krishna, with the mood to make him happy. If you do that, then that principle is also satisfied. So if you look at Sudama, what did he do? So he offered a content was very simple. If you look at the content, it was just chipped rice. But Krishna was so delighted. He was so delighted looking at what Sudama got for him, because that chipped rice that he bought to him was full of devotion, full of loving exchange. So that is what is important. From a devotee's perspective, we see both intent and content, but from Krishna's perspective, he sees, oh, what is the intention of my devotee? If he wants to please me, I'll be so pleased. If he's going to give that love to me, I'll be so pleased. That is what is expectation of Krishna. So now we need to understand, okay, what about, say for example, whenever in this materialistic world with this conditioned mentality, what happens when we actually give gifts? There is a feeling when you give gifts to somebody, let me do something really big. Let me just offer this big gift to him. And then you may think, you know what? I offered this big gift to him and he must be obliged to me throughout his life, no matter what, because I gave him such a big gift. It could be $1,000 gift or a $2,000 gift, but I gave him such a big gift. And this guy, he must be obliged to me all throughout his life. This is what is the intention, that with the conditioned mentality, we could just have this kind of intention. But no, what Krishna says is, you just give a little bit, very small thing, but you just have to offer it with love. This is the way you need to express your love. And Rupa Goswami Path is teaching that Vaishnavas are through Vaishnavas, you can have this loving exchange and do whatever you do with love. If somebody gives you something, take it with love. Same thing, when you're giving, give it with love. This is the principle that he is teaching us. So when we give gift to Krishna, think about it, okay? If you're going to give gift to Krishna, the whole point is we cannot call it as a gift. Why can't we call it as a gift? Because who are we to give to Krishna? Everything in this world belongs to Krishna. And so whenever we give something to Krishna, we are just simply returning what actually belongs to him, isn't it? So that is the thing. That is the point. We offer charity. Okay, when we offer charity to please Krishna, not necessarily to promote our glories. With a conditioned mentality, we may always think, okay, we need to be glorified. You know what? So I donated so and so much. It should come on the board somewhere, or should be displayed, or should be sent on email to a couple of people. Knowing people should know about me and my glories, how big of a heart I have, how nicely I'm distributing everything in charity, whatever I have. If that is the intention, then that is not right intention. We should definitely change that attitude, and that attitude should be changed to the attitude to please Krishna, because we need to understand we are nobody to give a gift to Krishna. Everything belongs to him, and what we are doing is just a favor by returning whatever belongs to him. And then there is another aspect, right? When it comes to Dadati, there are different people with different love languages they speak. They perceive love in different ways, different things. Say, for example, some devotees, they really want relationships. They care for relationships. And then some devotees, we need to find out what does the devotee value the most. Whenever we are planning to give a gift to a devotee, we need to understand what is his mood, what does he really want, what is going to please him, what is important for him, what will he relish, right? Those things have to be noted. Okay, not only will he cherish, not only will he appreciate, but he should actually see that wonderful bondage. When he sees this gift, he should probably it should remind him of some moments in your life, that can bring him joy and happiness. It could be anything, right? It could be if Krishna is what is pleasing to him, getting a deity of Krishna, or getting a picture, something, whatever pleases him, it should actually remind him of some nourishing exchanges that you have had with the devotee. And when he sees the gift that you have given him, it should actually make him remember those instances and feel nourished because of that relationship he has with you. So the gifts that we give has to be really thoughtful. It has to be thoughtful, and it has to be it has to actually suit to the mood of the devotee. Whatever pleases him, that is what we give. And then, so how about giving gifts to the pure devotees of the Lord? It should always be fresh. It should always be new. And it should always, sometimes the pure devotees of the Lord, not sometimes, most of the times, they want it first to be offered to the Lord, and then they take it as remnants. Whatever the Lord has used, they want to take it as remnants. That is what the pure devotees of the Lord always do. So we offer the best to them, and that is what is Dadati. And now, coming to what Srila Prabhupada has to say about this verse. What is the practical application or a practical takeaway point, Mataji? Can you please tell me? The principle is that first we need to give, right? That is what Krishna does. What does Krishna do? He gives us everything. He gives us. We are not before us asking only. He gives a lot of things. And then what does he demand anything in return? No. If a devotee is having that gratitude, then Krishna rejoices, saying, yay, this devotee is actually reciprocating with me. That is what Krishna feels when he has that loving exchange that is there with that devotee. When the devotee reciprocates, then Krishna feels happy. But he doesn't demand anything in return. But when you have that gratitude, Krishna rejoices. This is a very significant thing, because Prabhupada here says a very important point, that life of Krishna conscious society is nourished by these 6 exchanges that happens between the devotees. Whenever this principle is violated, then everything is destroyed. This is what Srila Prabhupada says. This is very, very important for relationships. These loving exchanges are very important for relationship building. And when these 6 exchanges are not there, he says, everything is destroyed. So that is how important it is. Practical learning point for us from this verse, of course, what type of gifts can we give to a person? And, it has to be thoughtful. It has to be pleasing to that devotee. It has to actually make him remember our exchanges that we have had in the past. And when he looks at that gift, he should cherish those moments, enjoy the gift that you give him. So many things come into play. It could be just a gift, but what is your intent is very, very important. And then first we give, right? And then we take. That is what Srila Prabhupada is going to talk about in Pratigrihnati. So now there's also, here we can see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving this transcendental gift of Mahamantra to all the animals in the Charikan forest. So if you look at it, there is this pastime which is quoted in Madhya Leela, 17th chapter, 26 to 32 verses talk about this. It said that once a group of 5 or 7 tigers joined the group of deer following the Lord. Not only did the tiger and the deer started to dance and jump in ecstasy, they also embraced each other. They were touching their mouths and began to kiss. Can you imagine the animals having these loving exchanges? One animal is supposed to eat another animal, but then here in this case, because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, all of them are united, and transcendentally they are enjoying this ecstatic feeling of rejoicing the Mahamantra that is being sung by our Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now, this pure love that he took it, why this pure love, he took it to the animals too in the Jarikan forest. And this is the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, we cannot imitate him, but follow him in his footsteps. So now here, this particular slide talks about lovingly give what other devotees require and lovingly accept those items that are mercifully given. So we'll now be talking about pratigrihnati, which is what is accepting those gifts that they mercifully give. So let's look into that and then read the slide that we have here. So moving on to pratigrihnati. So regarding pratigrihnati, so what Srila Prabhupada did, first he gave everything. And then he said, naturally, everything began. If somebody, all the people who are given something, they began to bring something naturally. So dadati, when dadati is done, pratigrihnati automatically happens. This is the point that Srila Prabhupada is trying to say through pratigrihnati. At first, we know, in the first donation that Srila Prabhupada got was in the form of a toilet paper, and he gracefully accepted that gift. So when he says, we can accept more and more when we give more and more. This is what Srila Prabhupada is conveying through this point of pratigrihnati. And now let's look at it. Look at an example to more so understand how this exchange has been done in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So now that Gaur Purnima is coming up, everybody is so enthused to learn about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his mercy. So I just thought of getting more examples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so that we can all get into the groove of Gaur Purnima. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving gift to Raghunath Das Goswami. He gave two gifts to him. One was Gunjamala and then Govardhan Shila. So Raghunath Das Goswami, very gracefully, he accepted that gift. And later he thought, why did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually give me this gift? Like that he thought. And then he then understood. Gunjamala represents Srimati Radharani, and then Govardhan Shila was given to him so that he can permanently take shelter on the foot of the Govardhan hill. So therefore, we should understand, okay, the gift is given, but it has an inner meaning also. There is definitely that inner meaning that has to be thought through, like how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this case donated this gift, gave this gift to Raghunath Das Goswami, but with a very good intention. So that has an inner meaning. So gift should not be like, oh, this is a trouble for me. You know what? I have to just dump it on the other person. Materialistic mentality can, conditioned mentality, people can definitely do that. Oh yeah, this gift is really bothering me. Somebody gifted this gift to me and it's just now occupying space. It's just occupying so much space in my house. I just have to dump it in somebody else's house now. So that is not a way of giving gifts. Okay, it has to be given with thoughtfulness. It has to have some inner meaning. Like here in this case, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave this Govardhan Shila, but then what did he do to the Shila? He touched it several times. He brought it close to his eyes. He kept it in his chest. Then he cried tears of ecstasy. So this gift was so dear to him. So he parted away that gift to Raghunath Das Goswami. This is what is the move that we need to develop. Whatever we are so close to, whatever we are dear to, that has to be given out. That is the exchange. That is when the loving exchange happens. That is when that gift will be cherished by that person. That is when the gift will be relished by that person. It should just not be given for the sake of giving, but everything has an inner meaning when it comes to devotees association. So it has to be definitely thoughtful. It has to be, as I told you, so many points have to be considered while giving a gift. Whatever is dear to you, like how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he exhibited beautifully through his example. This gift is so close to me and my heart. I have loving feelings of separation from that gift, but I want to give it to my devotee. When you receive that gift, the gift should also remind you of someone, some sweet moments that you had with that person, as I told you, very memorable moments you might have had with that person. It should actually churn your heart. It should actually move your heart. That much special it has to be. So this is Pratigrahnati. And now, so now we will move on and understand another story from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura to understand what does this Pratigrahnati mean. So beautiful flowers were seen in the garden, and they were all going to be plucked and offered to Krishna. Okay, one time when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura happened to come to a mata, and he came there, and then he had to leave. So he came out, and all the devotees also came out along with him. At that time, he sat in a car and he was just about to leave. At that time, one devotee came running running from the garden. He said, Swamiji, I just have one kadamba flower that is there in our garden. It was just a newly grown tree, and from that a flower has come, and I just wanted to first give it to you. The first question that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura asked was, did you offer it to Gauranitai? Of course, this devotee said, no, Maharaj, I just quickly came to you, running to you before you would leave, so that, obviously I wanted to, because of my because of my feelings, I just wanted to share this first flower with you, because this is the first flower from our garden, and I wanted to share it with you. I haven't offered it yet to Gauranitai. So now he said, go and offer it to Gauranitai, and then I can accept it as prasad. So this is what pure devotees do. The devotee then went inside, and then he offered, and then came back, gave it to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, and then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura told him, see, devotee, you could have given me this while I was in the temple. I would have taken it from your hand. I would have offered it to the Lord, and I would have given it as prasad to everybody else also. So what is he trying to say through this? I mean, if you look at it closely, the point that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura was trying to say was that everything is definitely meant for the pleasure of the Lord. And that too, whenever it comes to offerings, if it were to be offered to Gauranitai, if it were to be offered to the deities, it has to be done by the best devotee, by the pure devotee of the Lord. That way, the Lord definitely accepts it. Therefore, in our deity worship also, when we offer our bhoga, we don't offer it directly. We give the seed to Guru, and we say, request Guru Maharaj, can you please offer these food that we have to the deities? That is the request that we make to our Guru Vargas. And then everything should be offered to Krishna via a pure devotee of the Lord. Because he is again free from malice, he is free from envy, and love of Krishna is pouring into his heart. And he understands everything belongs to Lord Krishna. And again, if you look at us, we are kind of impure, and that is why we request our Guru to offer. So this is the mood that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura is trying to depict. So thereafter, Krishna accepts it. So we can definitely follow this principle of accepting gifts as remnants. If some devotee is giving us some fragrant oils or anything that has been offered, the clothes that have been offered to the Lord, then we accept it as prasadam, right? We accept it as a mercy of the Lord. That is pratigrihnati. So, but when we offer the purest thing, that is dadati. Purest thing, best possible purest thing that we can give, we give. That is dadati. So these are the two principles that we definitely need to follow through. And then if you look at the slides, we saw about distributing Krishna's holy name is a sublime example of dadati. So that's how I cited the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, where he distributed the holy names to the Jharkhand animals in the Jharkhand forest. And then one's willingness to receive this transcendental gift is pratigrihnati. Moving on to the next slide, we talked about the two aspects of the gifts in small ways in which affection can be expressed. Again, small gestures, what do? They actually deepen our relationships. So our emotional bank account is always positive. It should always be positive, and it should not be negative, because these small gestures, they make us feel very happy, satisfied. They help us deepen our relationship with the devotees. And in turn, this also helps us to have this connection with Lord Krishna very nicely. Okay. Okay. So that is dadati and pratigrihnati. Now let's try and understand this next principle that Rupa Goswami Pad is trying to teach us. So this is guhyam akyati prashyati. So now Guhyam Makyati. What does that mean? Explaining the situation of the material world. Guhyam Prashyati means the receiver now opens his mind or her mind to understand what is the situation of this material world, to inquire about Krishna consciousness. So let's more so understand again with an example and try to see what does this verse mean. Okay, so let's first get into the examples and then go through the remaining slides to more so understand, okay, what is the intent that Rupa Goswami Pad is trying to say here. Now, Krishna
Can
consciousness.
You run the slides on a full screen?
Mataji?
Can you please run the slides on a full screen, Mataji?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem. Sorry. Yeah. So now, Guhyam Makyati Prashyati, right? So Krishna consciousness, if you look at it, it is dormant in the heart of every living entity. So what we need to do, we need to arouse it. So arouse it means, how can we arouse that dormant Krishna consciousness? We have to hear. So people must be given an opportunity to hear about Lord Krishna. It is all there. Srila Prabhupada says it's all there. It is definitely not an artificial imposition. And that happens when we act with this process of hearing happens when we open our hearts. So, when you look at hearing, simply hearing from hearing in one place, what happens? You just hear from this ear, it passes on to the other ears, and then nothing happens right after that, if it's just simple hearing. But then what you have to do, you have to open your hearts. And when people open their hearts, when do? People generally open their hearts when they have trust and faith. So you don't open your heart to everyone, nah? You don't, right? Because you need to have that trust and faith. Then only on that person, oh yeah, this person is a well-wisher of mine. I can definitely open my heart to him. I'm sure he's going to give me some realization which is going to actually help me strengthen my practice of devotional service. So this faith has to come into that person, so that he can actually open his heart to that person, the other person. And here, the very important point that Srila Prabhupada brings about is that through this process, this faith actually is very important factor, and it gives them trust to reveal person's heart. So it's an important thing to have these loving exchanges. So when this happens, in the life of devotees, they feel inspired. Yeah, they reveal their heart. They come closer by these loving exchanges. They invite their friends. Yeah, come over for Prasadam. Come over. There's a kirtan happening at home. Come over. We have some other festival. Come over for Gaur Purnima. So in this way, the society of Vaishnavas, they grow and grow. So it's definitely important to have these exchanges. Otherwise, how will relationship happen? It cannot happen. No, we cannot complain. Oh, I don't have friends. I don't have devotee friends. We can't complain. Through these exchanges, it will definitely happen. We just have to keep our doors open. We have to be, obviously, we have to arouse this dormant Krishna consciousness by this process of hearing. And once we start to hear and listen to Krishna Katha with our hearts open, then what happens is we start to understanding the value of devotees. Then we start to open our hearts to the trustworthy people whom we have trust and faith. We start opening our hearts, reveal our mind to them, and then progress in Krishna consciousness that way. So we say Guhyam Makyati Prashyati. So now what can be an example, Mataji? How can we understand this more so still further? If you were to ask me, say, for example, devotee speakers, they come to Bhakti Sangha all the time, right? We have Bhagavatam class, we have Chaitanya Bhagavata class. We have so many classes that are given on Bhakti Sangha on an everyday basis. So what do those devotees come and do? They actually share their realizations. They have internally applied those realizations of Krishna consciousness, and they are making this philosophy come alive. The scripture lives through the person who lives the scripture, right? We study the scripture at home also, but then the scripture is living. In reality, it manifests when we actually associate with those who are actually living the scripture. Even though the reading by ourselves it's not great fun. When we read in the association of devotees, that is more fun. When they share their realizations, that is even more fun. Because that is the way we actually have developed that utsaha. in the process of this devotional service. When we come in contact with the association of devotees, we come and hear classes. It's just not abstract philosophy, right? Whatever we are hearing, this particular speaker is actually relishing it. He has internalized it, and then he is relishing it. And because of that relishment, he is able to share his internalized revelations that occurred within him. This way, he is actually expressing his heart out to the hearers. And that is how the classes actually come alive. Say, for example, if Srimad Bhagavatam class is taken as a ritual, if the speaker thinks, oh my God, you know what, I have to go and attend the katha. And if the audience is thinking like this, I have to go and attend, as if somebody is forcing him to attend, not so much reciprocation is going to happen, because heart is not put into it. How will the speaker also feel motivated? He can feel that motivation to speak that subject matter with relishment, isn't it? So both the hearer and the speaker has to have that loving exchange between them. So now if the audience is so enthusiastic, so nice, asking so many questions and sharing their realizations, the speaker will obviously feel, yeah, this is so good, I should give more to them. And in that process, what will happen is, whatever he has planned, he may even reveal much more than that through, because of Krishna's mercy. Because when we speak, it is not us who are speaking, right? It is due to the mercy of the acharyas we are able to speak what we are able to speak. So when the devotees are so absorbed and so nice, when it comes to reciprocation, this particular speaker, he may reveal more than what is in his heart. So that can happen too. So this is Guhyamakyati Prashyati. Now, when you look at it, so now there are two categories of people I told you. If the audience is inattentive, the speaker is diligently talking, wholeheartedly talking Krishna Katha, intensely trying to glorify Krishna with his best possible capacity, then he will experience spiritual advancement, even though, no problem, that this particular set of audience is very inattentive, no problem. But if the speaker is speaking with the right intention, then he will definitely advance. There is no doubt about it. And this is what is seen in the example of Dhritarashtra and Sanjiya. Sanjiya spoke wholeheartedly, wholeheartedly Bhagavad Gita to Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra's heart, he did not change. He did not, he still said, still wanted to fight. He still wanted the fight to go on. But then Sanjiya, what did he say? So Dhritarashtra was not at all transformed. But then Sanjiya, what did he say? Sanjiya said, you know what? I'm relishing it again and again. I'm just so relishing it. Every moment I'm relishing it. So this is what happened to Sanjaya. Of course, Dhritarashtra's heart was not transformed. Since he is the one who wholeheartedly narrated Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was definitely merciful in him, helping him to rejoice, because he was having that good intent. And then we also see that if both are sincere, hearer and the audience and the speaker both are sincere, then the reciprocation becomes very rich and very fulfilling. That is Guhyamakyati Prashyati. So we even start to ask so many questions to the speaker, because we built that trust and faith. And we open our hearts to the speaker, ask him some personal questions, isn't it? In Bhakti Sangha also, we have seen so many devotees, they come up with their personal questions. Ask them, what is the solution? That is because because this devotee, who is the speaker of Bhagavatam, has entrusted upon them the trust. He has given them the trust. He was internally sharing his realizations, because of which that reciprocation came from the audience also, who were able to reveal him their personal stories and seek solution for that. This is what happens. So now, here coming back to the slide, it means revealing to devotees one's confidential realizations in bhakti, and inquiring and hearing their confidential realizations. An experienced devotee explains, and an inexperienced devotee listens. This is what happens, because experienced devotee, he has much to share, because inexperienced devotee, he would like to listen from him What is this material world? This is Dukkhalem Ashashvatam. Why so it's Dukkhalem Ashashvatam? Can I get a little bit of happiness in this material world? No, not at all possible. It's definitely not possible at all. This experienced devotee will explain what is the reason. All this in this material world is temporary. Nothing is permanent. Krishna is the eternal absolute truth. Once you go to Krishna, chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you're going to have so much bliss and happiness. All this will be shared by this experienced devotee. This is what is Guhyam Atyati Prashyati. So now, so we understand that this Guhyam Atyati Prashyati happens when there is trust. So people open their hearts when they have trust and faith. You don't open your heart to the stranger. This is another important point that we need to understand. We don't go and start revealing, opening our hearts. Oh, you know what? I am in such and such problem. You know what? I'm going through this. We don't do that. We share it with our close friends whom we trust and who are able to give us advice in such a way that we can actually progress in devotional service, right? It should be with the right, that devotee also who gives these suggestions should do it with the right intent. For us to advance in spiritual subject matter or devotional service for that matter. So next, let's move on to the next topic. Bhungte bhojete chaiva. Very, very interesting topic, isn't it? It's nighttime here. I haven't eaten honored my prasadam yet. And I'm sure that other devotees in the Eastern time zone probably might have relished and honored the prasadam. So now let's talk about it and understand what Srila Rupa Goswami Pad is trying to tell here. Bhungte, accepting and honoring prasadam as lords through devotees, Sunday feast. And then bhojete, inviting devotees home and offering them prasadam, ready to please them in all respects. Okay, so now here also we should try to understand with a beautiful example to help us understand this concept. Of course, we all know about it, but still I want to go through some salient points here so that we all relish together. So now this example is Srila Prabhupada's god brother, who is Ananta Babu. So Ananta Babu actually met Srila Prabhupada when he returned to India, and he invited Srila Prabhupada. He said, Srila Prabhupada, you are doing a wonderful preaching mission and you have done all this in America. Not only that, you have brought all these American boys and girls here to India. You know what? You should bring them to my mata and I'm going to personally cook for them. So now Srila Prabhupada, he took all his American disciples, everybody, all the disciples there. And Srila Prabhupada was sitting in one of the chairs and all the disciples actually sat down. And Ananta Babu, what did he do? He actually personally cooked the meal and he offered prasadam with his own hands. He was running and serving all of them. He enjoyed all the devotees so much, he enjoyed the devotees so much, and with so much relishment, he actually happened to take all of that prasadam and said, Hari Bol, and served all of them, saying Hari Bol. You can see that, right? Whenever devotees come to your home, when we actually show this loving mood, loving reciprocation with them, they feel so happy. They feel at home. And they don't even want to go back to their home because you're treating them so nicely. And this was the treatment that Ananta Babu was able to give to the devotees of Srila Prabhupada, disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And then Srila Prabhupada looking at Ananta Babu saying, Hari Bol. What did he do? In turn, Srila Prabhupada, he said, see how non-envious Ananta Babu is. See how simple-hearted he is. He doesn't think about all he's doing is he just is a simple devotee. He stays here in India and he's so appreciative of me and you, the disciples like you. He knows nobody, but he's serving you all with loving mood. So this is how you present everything with love. That is what Srila Prabhupada said. And everybody, they actually accepted that prasadam also with love. So this was the loving exchange, and Prabhupada said through this process, it will definitely awaken the love for Krishna. It will definitely happen. And so Prabhupada also brings up this point that prasadam is the way where Krishna enters into the lives of most people. Krishna enters their stomach first, and then he works his way into the heart and he captures their heart. And this is transcendental journey. Because body's anatomy enters through the stomach, and from the stomach it actually moves to the heart. And many devotees, they actually become attracted to Krishna consciousness. Why? Because of prasad. So this is the secret of our Krishna conscious mission. And Bhunte Bhojete Chaiva is offering prasad and taking prasad. And Haigriva Prabhu, he actually wrote Krishna, Hare Krishna in his book. He's written some book, and in the book he mentions that we discover that Srila Prabhupada actually knows so many recipes. We felt his knowledge of cooking recipes is as vast as his knowledge for Sanskrit verses. So that much knowledge he has in cooking too, not only in philosophy, but also in cooking. He himself would cook and he would ask his disciples to cook. So now we think, okay, so we understand that this prasadam actually is very, very important in that perspective, that Krishna is able to enter a devotee's heart through this prasadam. And love feast, if you say about this word love feast, what does that mean? So love feast is a word that was coined by the hippies. When the hippies were there, that was the jargon they used. And when Srila Prabhupada started the movement in 1966, the idea was that devotees would cook the feast. And they were putting so much love into the feast that they were doing. They were putting so much bhakti. And Krishna's feasts on bhakti, of course. He just loves bhakti. If people are devoted and if they are cooking with so much absorption, then Krishna, he definitely loves that bhoga. And that bhoga is filled with mercy, isn't it? Devotees actually feast on mercy. And that is why we say we honor prasad, isn't it? So this is the actual reciprocation of love that we are talking about, where the community of devotees, they come together for the mercy of Lord Krishna. There is such intense reciprocation of love that is happening through this process of prasadam. So prasadam is a way of reciprocation of affection. So it's a very, very important part of Krishna culture. So now, what is the learning point? What can we understand? So you can give somebody prasad, and when somebody gives to you, but again, you have to express your love. The component of love is what makes a difference when you serve prasad. It is a prasad that has to be offered with love. And when that prasad is offered with love to somebody who comes to your house, they will never forget that moment. They will never forget it. And when that missing element of love is there, then there may be a question whether or not the devotee will come next time depends upon your mood of reciprocation with that devotee. Because this way we can actually express our love to them. When we show our heart to them, when we reveal our heart, when the way you offer prasad, the way you serve prasad, when you show these love and affection to them, they will obviously feel obliged to come to your house next time. But when you're not showing that mood of loving reciprocation, chances are bleak that they may come to you or may not come to you. So this is important. So lovingly serving devotees prasadam and accepting prasadam from devotees. Prasadam is distributed by a devotee to maintain the spirit of bhakti. We should invite devotees, offer them prasadam and please them. Very important. Okay. So prasadam is the way in which Krishna, he enters our life, and Krishna, he enters into our stomach, as I told you, and he works his way to our heart and he captures us. Now, let's talk about the negative injunctions of this verse. So who must we not associate with? We must avoid these exchanges with atheists, mayavadis, jnanis, karmis, and cross-sense enjoyers who oppose the theistic movement that educate people in God consciousness. Intermingling with them, sharing gifts with them, revealing their mind, taking advice from them, taking invitation for dining, so on and so forth, may cause to become we may become attached to them, affectionately attached to them, and be influenced by their atheistic mentality. So we may even fall down from Krishna consciousness. Therefore, there is a warning here to not have these exchanges with the so mentioned people, atheists, mayavadis, jnanis, karmis, and so on and so forth. So now, what does Prabhupada mean by this? The point that is being conveyed through this is that we should not have a relationship with them. Again, these exchanges are meant to have relationships. But with these set of people, we should be careful and avoid relationships. Relationships means what? Having these 6 exchanges with love, with a feeling of affection, with a feeling of love, with a feeling of gratefulness. These things have to be avoided with these people. That is what is the intent. But then a question may arise. It's okay to give a gift to a Mayavadi or a Jnani, but then do not accept anything from them. Okay. So as long as there is no point of us, as long as there is no relationship that is going to happen between the two, we are fine. So we are okay to give gifts, and then it's okay to give prasadam to them because we are showing compassion to them. That's okay, but not beyond that. We are not taking anything from them in terms of prasadam, because obviously their consciousness is different from our mood of preparing prasadam. So we don't take prasadam from them. Those are the reasons why we avoid. And then when we open our hearts to them, what happens? Confidential details are revealed, and in that process, we develop closeness to them. Then a relationship gets formed, and then they may start to influence us. We are not there yet. A very advanced people can take it maybe, but when it comes to us, we need to be very, very careful in whom we are associating with. What things are we associating with? What bhakti shastra, what shastras are we associating with? We need to be careful about these things. Okay. And that is why Srila Prabhupada, he's very, very intentionally he's saying this because he is worried about our consciousness. He is definitely concerned about us. He wants us to go back home, back to Godhead. He wants Krishna. He wants all of us to get Krishna Prema. So he doesn't want to make a compromise there. So he is definitely warning us here. So that should be taken, that intent should be carefully noted. What is Srila Prabhupada trying to teach us? And then how can we understand again? We can understand. Sorry, Mataji. So, okay, now coming back to this verse, what can we just have an example? Yes. So there's another example that Srila Prabhupada is talking about here, the unfavorable association, right? When there were devotees in Jugu, when it was just starting up, at that time, it was a very primitive condition. And they began to have neighbors. They began, actually, those people who are living in the temple of Jugu, they began to visit the neighbors. And when they started to visit the neighbors, what would they do? They started to drink water, eat food from their neighbors. At the same time, what happened was they started to gossip about other devotees. Prajalpa began. And in the end, Srila Prabhupada said, that's enough. No more steps. No more, none of these are going to happen with the neighbors anymore. Because he feels that everything is changed due to improper sangha. So we need to be really careful and be watchful of our association. That is why if you look at 2 and 3, it all stresses, oh, don't go with the association of non-devotees, don't do that, don't do this. And that is why here in this verse, we are talking about what is this loving exchange and how can we actually do it with devotees so that you don't have to seek non-devotees association. All right. So that must be understood. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he also brings a beautiful thing here. He says that very same feeling of love and very same feeling of emotion, if you want to develop towards God, you just have to first show it towards the devotees, Vaishnavas. You have to be friendly relationship with them. And the same feeling can then be directed towards the Lord. So this is not a different emotion. It's the same. First, you have to develop this emotion with the devotees so that you can, to the extent you're able to depict this with the devotees, to that extent, you will be able to depict this love to God as well. So that's the point he's bringing up. So it's very important to have this loving exchange with the devotees. And now, okay, so now I think we are going to probably summarize the whole I'm sorry. I think I'm pasting. I'm sorry. I think this is another version of the slide. 1 minute. I'm just going to stop share. I just think that I posted a different version of the because I prepared a chart to talk about the summary, and I'm sorry, dear devotees. I think by numbering I messed it up. You can see this is the one. Yeah, okay, I got it. I think the version numbers were changed. Okay. Yeah. Are you all able to see the screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Please start.
Mataji, 1 second. I think I'm still getting the wrong slide with the wrong version number. I'm so sorry. Just give me 1 more minute.
Good, Mataji.
I'm so sorry. You know, I prepared various versions, and I think wanted to show you some animations also. I'm so excited about that part. I think that other slide didn't have that animation, so give me
Jai
1
Ho.
minute. All right, let me see. I'm actually going to WhatsApp and getting that the recent version. So give me 1 minute. I closed the WhatsApp. That's why it's taking some time. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Right. Vinita Kandarika Mataji, do you mind sending? I don't know which group. Let me see. Yeah, I got it.
Haribol. Jai Satchinandana.
Sorry, Mataji, it's really making you very late. Okay. Right. Yeah, it's opening. Okay, let me put it in current view. Slideshow. Okay. All right. Yeah. So now, so this is the verse. I think I didn't show the slide. For some reason, I was up with the other version. I'm so sorry, dear devotees. That was my mistake. Here is the new version of the slides. They look much better. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this was the analogy I was talking about. Like feeding the snake in milk and sorry, feeding the snake with milk and bananas simply make it more poisonous. Therefore, we should avoid these six exchanges with the atheists, Mayavadis, Jnanis, Karmis. They actually oppose the theistic movements that educate people in God consciousness. So it's very important, right? Why this principle is told and what is the negative injunction. We talked about it, and we also related it with an example from Srila Prabhupada's Juhu temple. And now just to kind of recap, we saw Datati, that is offering gifts. We need to first give. And this is the principle that Srila Prabhupada wanted us to imbibe. And we saw about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example in Jarikan's forest, that is giving holy names of the Lord to the animals in the forest. And then coming to Pratigrihnati, that is receiving gifts. When we accept, we actually accept when we give more. And we saw the example of Raghunathas Goswami, where he received 2 gifts from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how these gifts were so dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how he actually parted those gifts for Raghunathas Goswami. And then Guhya Makyati Prashyati, which is revealing the mind in confidence and inquiring confidentially, having this heart-to-heart communications, that is Guhya Makyati Prashyati. And then example is Sanjiya and Dhritarashtra. Even though Dhritarashtra did not transform in his heart, Sanjiya actually relished each and every bit of what was happening in Gita. And that way, he was able to spiritually advance, even though Dhritarashtra did not advance. Of course, when the receiver and when the speaker and the hearer both are having reciprocal relationship, both will advance, definitely. But either if one is not able to I mean, if the speaker is, I mean, if the speaker or the hearer is not actively involved in their part, then Krishna will give mercy to the other, no problem, as long as they have the right intention. And then we saw about Bhunte Bhojete, where eating or offering prasad, feeding or offering prasad. And this way we are able to develop that loving reciprocation with the devotees. We saw about example of Srila Prabhupada's god brother, Ananta Babu, how nicely he was actually serving prasadam, saying Hari Bol, Hari Bol, and how he was opening his heart to all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada looked at him and said, nothing like this. He doesn't have any envy. He doesn't have any spirit of enviousness, jealousy, or anything like that. And this is the simplistic nature of this devotee. And this way, what happens is Krishna actually enters your mouth and then enters your heart, and he makes his way through the heart. This way, mercy is actually coming to us by honoring prasad when it's served with love and affection. So these are the 6 exchanges, dear devotees, that we saw. And if you look at Srila Prabhupada, he actually started this mission single-handedly, but because people have started to come forward, they have taken up the process of Krishna consciousness. What happened is it is very much going all throughout the world. Everybody is able to relish this process of Krishna consciousness. Because why? Srila Prabhupada gave. And then people slowly started to give back. And with that, we can always think about this example, how Srila Prabhupada, he was just, when he was starting it out in New York, again, he went to America with 40 rupees. And what actually helped him was this loving reciprocation. Whomever he met, whomever he spoke to, many of his disciples, all over the world, they all spent, Srila Prabhupada would spend hours of his time. He would absolutely, he didn't have any money, but he would just have one apple. When people come to their, when they come to, the program, 15 or 20 people would come. And what he would do is he would offer one apple to Krishna, and he would cut it into pieces and distribute that pieces to everybody who has come there. So one apple was shared amongst all of them. In this way, he expressed his love. He was ready to talk to anybody for hours. So as long as he said, okay, one person, even if one person gets into this process of Krishna consciousness, my life is a success, right? And this is what was this loving exchange is what I think helped Srila Prabhupada spread the movement all over the world. Once he started to give, people also started to give more to Prabhupada. But first, he gave. He made this heart-to-heart connections with all of them. And then he did reciprocal affections through prasadam. And then people gradually started giving him back. But he didn't expect anything. And this is how the movement actually spread. And this loving exchange is very, very important in this process of devotional service. If we were to get rid of our anarthas, then this loving exchange can only help a person. It's also an indirect way to help a person get rid of their anarthas. So with this, I will conclude today's session and then leave it for question and answer sessions. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripasindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees, for listening to this Krishna Katha. And again, I know it's time for you in the East Coast, but I really appreciate everybody's time in trying to discuss the subject matter of NOI. It was definitely a pleasure. And thank you, Bhakti Sangha, for giving me this opportunity to present here in front of all of the devotees. I'm really so thrilled always to come to the Sabha and talk about Krishna and speak about the glories of the Lord. So I definitely thank. And of course, this Dadati and Pratigrahnati, I have to give a live example. The pictures that I didn't show you, some of these pictures actually came from Preeti Vilasni Mataji. So thank you, Preeti Vilasni Mataji, for this loving exchange. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Radhika Kasturi Mataji. Thank you so much for your very wonderful class, the way you delivered this wonderful principles, the 3 principles of Preeti Lakshana, which is really very important. So devotees, you can raise your hands or you can type your questions in the chat box. So right now we have Jyoti Mataji. Jyoti Mataji, can go ahead, unmute yourself.
Dandavat pranam to you, Mataji, and Dandavat pranam to all the devotees who are present. My question to you is, you spoke about the intention and you said that intention is the more um, crucial thing that will be absorbed by Krishna. So I want to know how to purify our intention.
Yes, Mataji. So, how to purify our intention? It's a beautiful question. So, in the sixth process of surrender, we have the two limbs, right? Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varchana. So, whatever is favorable for Krishna consciousness, we take it up. And again, what happens in the process is that we go based on our likes and dislikes. Oh, you know what? I like to do this. I don't like to do that. That is what happens to us. But our likes and dislikes don't necessarily align with the Shastra. So what has to be done now? In order to purify our intentions, we need to go by Shastras. And that is why we say, okay, whatever pleases Krishna, we do that. Whatever, as much as possible. Again, it can't happen overnight. We are so conditioned and we are very reactive and we work by condition, right? I mean, because of our conditional nature, we work according to our nature and we go by that. But slowly we have to remember. That is why it is important for us to awaken our buddhi. If buddhi is not awakened, we don't know about Shastras and we don't know what is right and what is wrong. So we need to first awaken our buddhi. And when we awaken our buddhi, we understand theoretically, oh yeah, you know what, this Krishna doesn't like that. I should not be envious against that devotee. I should have loving relationship with that devotee and not have envy towards that devotee. I should not have greed on material things. All this comes by knowledge. And for that, buddhi needs to be awakened. And when we work on that platform of what is anukul for Krishna and what is pratikul for Krishna, we try to avoid and not avoid, or do things that are favorable and avoid things that are unfavorable. This is the way we can purify our intent.
Okay, Mataji. And I have a following question. You spoke about there are components of love. So is it in the depth or the love itself is the component? Because there are two things in that statement. If you say components of love, then there is some different answer maybe, or the love itself is a component.
So the love has to be with the right intent, Mataji. That is what I meant. When the love is with the right intent, then that actually satisfies the principle that we are talking about. It has to be with the right intent. And the love should not be for our selfishness, because again, I'm getting something out of him. I'm going to, if I do this, I'm going to get something in exchange. For that, I'm portraying or displaying my love. That should not be there. And the intent should be clear, to do it as much as possible selflessly, to have Krishna in the center in all relationships. And that is how we actually go with that relationship. Why are we so attached to Vaishnavas? Because Krishna is in the center. What happens when devotees come together? Tushyanti cha, ramanti cha. That is what happens. So I'm talking about it from that perspective. The component of love should have the right intent.
Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat pranam. Thank you for beautiful explanation. It's very clear to me. I'll apply in my life, in my devotion as well. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Wonderful, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mukunda, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Radhika Kasturi Mataji. Thank you for your very beautiful class.
Hare Krishna.
I loved how you explained all the points. Mataji, I had one question. So that is like you had explained that you had talked about this for a little while, that we only tell our trusted like our inside, like the things that we want to, like which are deep in us, like our feelings and stuff, to the people who we trust.
Correct.
So should we tell that to anyone who is a devotee and is like a little high level devotee? Then should we tell it to them?
So say, for example, you like the devotee and you think whatever whatever katha he speaks, it actually melts your heart. When you develop that trust with him, then that time, okay, you'll feel very nice to reveal your heart to him and ask him for suggestions, isn't it? So naturally that will come. So whomever we are comfortable with, whomever we have that trust and faith, we go to that devotee. But we don't open our heart to everybody, right? So that's the point that I was trying to bring. But if you feel confident with that devotee, then go ahead and share your personal thing with him, and then he would give you suggestions, right? Absolutely. So we just have to see that, okay, this person is coming from the disciplic succession and he's talking about Srila Prabhupada, he's talking about everything he's talking about is relevant for the Shastras. At that time, you feel comfortable to actually reveal your heart because you very much trust him and you have developed that faith with him. Okay, Mukund? Very good listening, Mukund.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, dear Mukund. You're very, very active. I'm so surprised how you're able to attend all classes in Bhakti Sangha, irrespective of adults and kids classes.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Anyone else has any questions, any comments?
Hare Krishna, Ji Radhika, respected Adi Radhika Kasturi Mataji, Koti Danvat Pranam to your sincere seva. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Sri Radha Gopinath ki jai, Jai Jai Nityananda, Jai Jai Gauranga. I will try my best to explain in 2.5 minutes. It's very difficult to cover all the points, but I just summarize whatever we teach from you today. You teach about the loving exchanging with devotee, with Dadati and Guhyam, then acknowledge and seeks exchanging and we have to stay far from atheist, Mayavadi, and you given an example of Srila Prabhupada in a Juhu temple, when they are going to construct Juhu temple, that time the neighbors, they are staying there, they are not devotee, and its effect to the devotee and the prajalpa, and Srila Prabhupada said you have to stay far from that neighbors. Then receiving gift, that for that you give an example of Raghunath Das Goswami, the two gift. And then we give and then Guhyam Gnan, you explain about receiving the mind in confident when in our Bhakti Sangha, when so many preachers came, so many senior brahmachari, so many senior GBC Maharaj came and they teach us, and by that realization, it's help us in our day-to-day life, and we will progress in our bhakti. And for that you are given an example of Sanjiya and Dhritarashtra. Sanjiya is progressing day by day, but in the other side, then you explain about the bhukte bhukta jayate, eating, serving, eating, offering Shri Bhoga to Shri Jagannath Balram Subhadra, and then take Prasadam, inviting Vaishnava to our house, feeding Vaishnava and get the blessing of them. When they are taking Prasadam, they are explaining Leelas from Shri Bhagavatam, Shri Chaitanya Charanamrita, and that realization is work in our day-to-day life. Then explain about the Guhyam Kayati Prachati. We have to hear about Lord Krishna when we are offering, we are open the hearts. When we are not knowing the senior brahmachari or senior preacher, but we open our heart and we will explain our personal problems also. Why? Because we feel so comfortable with that preachers. We faith in that preachers. So that Vaishnava will see that in Bhakti Sangha they had so many personal questions also. So that preacher is so pure in a bhakti. He is very dedicated her life in Krishna consciousness, and especially morning sadhana. We have seen our Radhika Gopi, she's from California working in IT field, so busy, but her work is, our Radhika Kasturi Mataji is just recording or recording the lectures, and She's doing so many service, and she's backside director and read hearing attentively. So hearing Krishna Katha, when we hear attentively, its effect to direct our japa. Then you explain about the realizations of senior Vaishnava and devotional service. Why we faith in our senior brahmachari and senior preachers and bhakti sangha all teacher, because they are not reading only Shishi Bhagavatam, Shishi Bhagavad Gita, but they digest it, so that they understand which situation we are passing. Please come for the, and we have to invite the prasadam, like we are celebrating Janmashtami or Radhashtami or kids class, and we have to serve them nicely by preparing such a nice prasadam. I give one example. Dr. Kishori is younger than me. She came from directly study. She's studying in Mumbai, doctor medical student, and she came and she just take a nice prasadam. My job is only cooking prasadam, and then she started class. So there is not a 1, 2, 3, but more than 50 Matajis. They all are older than Kishori, but they hear Eji Kishori Gopi, but they hear so attentively. Why? Because her sadhana is so strong. She is following Krishna consciousness so strictly, the rules and regulations. And yes, Mataji, we prepare such a nice notes, but the special mercy of our Guru and Gauranga and Acharya Gan, we can speak Krishna Katha, and its effect to other Vaishnava. Then you explain about the Bhakti Sangha Bhagavatam class. I already explained. And then you explain about the devotees, Utsaha, Nischay, and Dhairya. The Vakta and Shrota both has to be sincere in Bhakti, so that when Bhakta is the speaker is so sincere, then it's directly effect to Shrota, those who are hearing them attentively. Relieving it, then they by the speaker has their own realization, and he share with us, and it's help us in our life, day-to-day life, material and spiritual problem. Motivation speaker, I should then due to our almost then Guhyam give a hardly explain, he will experience. So our senior Maharaj and senior Brahmachari and our Bhakti Sangha teachers are explained from hardly. They not only read Shishi Bhagavatam and Shishi Bhagavata Gita, but they realize it. So that realization is work in our all the shrotas, those who are hearing attentively. No problem. Some Vaishnava here. Sometimes some Vaishnava are hearing or some are not hearing sincerely, but उसके जो हृदय में भक्ति के बीच जो seeds are there in their heart, that is growing day by day and become a, like some, after some times the fruits are coming and the flower is coming. So this is the mercy of special Vaishnava of all the speakers, that they give by the Acharya Gan mercy, they give a Krishna consciousness to all the Vaishnava. Then you give an example of Sanjiya and Dhritarashtra, and it's going on, Mataji. Still there is a 6th page. कोटि कोटि दंडवत प्रणाम. श्रील प्रभुपाद, श्रील गुरुदेव की जय. श्री श्री राधा गोपीनाथ की जय. जय जय नित्यानंद. Jai Jai Gauranga. Thank you very much for your deep realization.
Mataji, I feel so complete, Mataji. As Srila Prabhupada says, the number of devotees is not a matter. Even if you're able to inspire one person, then that's your life is set. So I always remember that statement of Srila Prabhupada, which always motivates me. No matter what, you just be enthusiastic to present Krishna Katha wherever you are. It's okay. I mean, that's why that aspect of hearing and speaker is, the aspect of the speaker and the aspect of the audience is very important. And you're like equal to thousands of audience, Mataji, because with such sincerity you listen. And that actually melts the speaker's heart very, very much. I melted, Mataji. You made my day. Thank you, Mataji. My koti dandavat pranams to you. Hare Krishna.
I take only 1 second. You explained so nicely about the Srila Prabhupada said this material world is Dukkhalaya, and we have to chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and we all will hold each one hand. We all sit in a Srila Prabhupada boat, and we hold each one hand and enter in Shri Gaulok Vrindavan Dham by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and hearing attentively Krishna Katha. Jai Radha Gopi ki Jai, Radhika Kasturi ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you so much for such elaborate discussion and practical examples in the entire class. So thank you again so much, Radhika Kasturi Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I think I put the wrong version of slides. I pardon I sincerely apologize for that. I think I put that slide without pictures. I don't know what I messed up the numbering, it looks like. Thank you, Mataji, for giving this opportunity.
Okay, so thank you so much, Radhika Kasturi Mataji. So we'll end up. Thank you, devotees, for your auspicious presence, and hope to see you all next week with the 5th verse of NOI. So we'll stop here. Vancha kalpatarubhascha
Patitanam pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, NOI ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Kasturi Gopi ki Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Koti koti
Thank you,
dandavat.
Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna.
pranam.
Dandavat pranam.
Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, you can end the call. Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, are you there?
Yes, Mataji.